We have mentors in our life, or even people that are almost like the anti-mentor, the bullies, the people that push you down, and then you get a chip on your shoulder and then you want to be better than that because of the way they made you feel. I think people should write this down. I didn't come up with it. Instead of fake it until you make it, why don't you be it until you become it? If you can learn how to communicate and tell stories and be curious and be creative, your entire life will change.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself a favor and give us a follow, because I would hate for you to have FOMO and miss out on all the amazing guests I'm bringing on this year. So without further ado, let's get right into this one. Ben, for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity yet to get to know you, to get to meet you and know who you are, tell us your elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, well, first off, John, man, you're amazing. Thank you for the opportunity. I love the show, brother. I joke that I ask questions. I ask questions for a living. And there's two main categories. I too have a podcast, Real Business Connections. It's all about asking questions and getting the wisdom from the people who have it to the people who need it. And then I run a marketing firm, Ballward Marketing. It's all about coming in, knowing that nothing in life is square peg round hole, asking intentional questions to get to strong problems and help solving them in marketing online. So that's the, I guess, elevator pitch. I'm not an elevator pitcher. I like to sit down and chat and get to know somebody, you know?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for long talks, man. Hence why I started the podcast. So, I'm glad that we're here today and we have a bunch of time to talk. So take us back in the time machine a little bit to start things off. What was it like? What was little Ben like? What was it like growing up? Tell us about your childhood, and did that have a factor into, what you're doing today or who you are today?
Dude, it's wild. Our childhood always factors in who we become, whether we know it or not, whether we realize it or not. We have mentors in our life, or even people that are almost like the anti-mentor, the bullies, the people that kind of push you down, and then you get a chip on your shoulder and then you want to be better than that because of the way they made you feel. It's so huge, man. It's when I was younger, I wanted to be a basketball player, like literally a jersey every single day of the week. Back in the day, I mean, we're talking Vince Carter, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, wanted to be the next Michael Jordan, Reggie Miller. And I had a day for a jersey every single day of the week. Played all day, every day. I was literally the shortest boy in school. The only person shorter than me in elementary school was a little Asian girl, Olivia Lee. So, I mean, what do you think happens, bro? Like, you want to be the next Michael Jordan, but you're the shortest boy in school. You're destined to be about 5'7", 5'8". What do you think happens, man? I got bullied. I got pushed around a lot. I wasn't the cool kid when I was younger. I had skill set, but people would just bully me because I was the little guy, playing basketball. And the reason I tell this story, it's crazy because it was high school that I first found the music industry. Good friend of mine, Brendan Gansmer, showed me some local bands. Before you know it, I was going to every local show. I was handing out flyers. I was wearing the t-shirts. Then I got to the point where I was running the merch booth. And I was doing like this guerrilla marketing just for something that I loved, not even knowing exactly what I was doing, why I was doing it. My conviction was unmatched because I loved the music and I loved what I was doing. And nowadays, bro, I run a marketing firm. So if I didn't go through that, hardship, which I mean, we all get bullied once and, it's not a big deal. If I didn't go through that point when I felt small, if I never found that tribe in music, that community, I would have never found marketing and I wouldn't be doing what I do today and I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. So even the weirdest things that happen in our childhood, they happen for us and I'm excited to be here.
Let me ask you a quick, deep question.
Yeah, man.
What was it like coming to the realization that the dreams you originally set weren't going to turn out the way you thought of them?
That is a deep question. And it's funny because I don't even think I thought of it at the time. Really what happened is it played out in me smoking a bunch of pot and starting to drink as a teenager. A lot of us do. I'm not unique in that sense, but I didn't sit back and think about what is the meaning of my life. I just felt like I wasn't good enough. So I started a party to numb that pain. And honestly, that pain builds up inside of us. And it wasn't until recently that I realized that I was kind of like sucking the life force out of me by not sitting in the emotion. So I don't have a good answer for you because I don't remember what it was like. But if I were to do it again, I'd sit in that emotion. I know that's deep, but I'd feel that pain because that pain is a catalyst for growth if we use it to our advantage. I suppressed it, bro.
So let me ask you then, because I had people that around me that kind of did similar things growing up in high school. People, having hard times at home. And of course, it's always like bangers and tellies, what we call them, and like parties, and it's like all these functions are always going on. It's like so many people in high school, especially college. It's like they're at each and every single function going in and drinking, smoking, the same people over and over again. And a lot of those people secretly are just like almost to escape their current reality and their present reality. Let me ask you, what did you do to break out of that? I know you started going to the music festival, but at what point in time did you start stop doing that, at least to numb yourself?
Dude, I really hope, you're a great example of this, John. You're kicking butt at a young age. I know your listeners, a lot of them might still be young and they're already kicking ass. And honestly, they're probably going to lap me. They might even lap you. I wish that I had made changes sooner because imagine this. I was learning some of the personal growth stuff. I was very passionate about human behavior, went to school for psychology, and was really passionate about human behavior. So I understood the actions I needed to take to be better. I read the books. I knew that I needed to sleep good. I knew that I needed to start writing, do something creative. I knew that I had to go help people. So I knew where my North Star was. But since I was partying so much, imagine you know the North Star, you know what to do, but you're running backwards. And it's like you're actually getting farther away from it. You see it, but you're getting farther away from it. You know the answer, but you're not actually listening to the answer. What do you think happens, man? You start to feel like an imposter. You kind of start to feel like a piece of crap. And it went through years of me meditating, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, writing, starting a podcast. And I would look in the mirror once in a while, John, and I would say an affirmation like, you're good enough now and you're only getting better. And I'd look at my freaking dopey ass, and I'm tired today, but my dopey ass eyes looking tired, hungover from the previous day. And I started asking myself, I'm telling myself I'm good enough now. I'm telling myself these things. I'm lying to myself because I'm telling myself that I deserve success, but I'm doing all these things that the unsuccessful people do. How am I going to be rich? How am I going to grow? How am I going to make impact if I know the answer, yet I'm binge Netflixing, I'm watching porn, I'm drinking too much, I don't have good intimate relationships? How am I going to have success? So honestly, man, I wish I just, snapped my fingers and figured it out. It took a lot of years of getting in my own way. But then once I realized, honestly, just a few years ago that I was getting in my own way, my growth has just exponentially, as soon as you get out of your own way, man, the growth is so quick and exponential, man.
No, I love that you mentioned that you were looking in the mirror, telling yourself that, I'm successful and I'm going to win and all these different affirmations, and then realize that it doesn't work like that. And that's one of my biggest things that I hate about the abundance law of attraction people. Sometimes it's like I believe very much you need to have an abundance mindset. I believe that's just mandatory in order to become successful. It's or at least wealthy in the holistic sense, right? Because you can get a lot of money on a scarcity mindset, being super competitive and cards close to your chest and stuff like that. But it's you want to live I believe a truly wealthy life, like money, relationships, family, all that stuff. It's an abundant game that you got to play. And a lot of people that, talk about law of attraction, they always say, I'm a money magnet and all things are working out in my favor and all things. It's another one that I hate. It's if it's meant to be, it'll happen. And I just feel like that's such a passive role that you could take in your life.
Yeah.
And it's all these different affirmations. It reminds me of the fake it to make it quote that everyone says. And it's you're literally telling people to lie to themselves. And with these affirmations, people don't realize that speaking in the mirror doesn't get the job done. Are you getting the job done? That's it. That's all that matters. And if you're not, speaking in the mirror is pretty much almost, it's like a mirage. You feel like you're going towards something, but you're not really going towards anything besides talking to yourself in the mirror and wasting time that you could be spent working. And it's one of those things just you got to do the activities that come with success. So when you came to that realization, what were the steps you took to start getting out of there? All right, you start realizing in the mirror, like, okay, I'm starting to feel this imposter syndrome. I'm running away from my North Star. What are the steps that you took to get out of it? And then from there, what kind of led you into the marketing road?
Yeah, man. Well, let's get into the steps. And first, I kind of just want to say, I think people should write this down. I didn't come up with it. But instead of fake it until you make it, why don't you be it until you become it? Just the concept that you're faking it, like you're a fake. You're a fraud. You're not that person. You're pretending to be. You're trying to trick your subconscious, but your actions aren't in alignment with that person. So just be that person, and then you'll become that person. You don't have to tell yourself you're that person. Just be that person, and then you'll become that person. So what I did is I just started taking action, man. Like COVID had hit. I was let go from my sales executive role. Like I was drinking heavier than ever in 2020. I felt isolated and alone, like laying there with a handle of whiskey literally every weekend. And then again, having the bloodshot eyes and being like, I'm lying to myself. I'm faking it. I am a fake. Felt like crap. And that same year, I replaced my sales executive income in literally a year. And it's because I started to take action. You asked like what the steps were. For me, I had marketing chops. I had worked in the marketing field literally since I was a kid, handing out those flyers, not even knowing it. I'd been marketing, my whole life. I was marketing to my kids. I was marketing as a kid when I was trying to get that candy bar. I was selling the fact that I'm going to get that candy bar in that grocery store. So I had been marketing and selling my whole life. It was preparing me to this weird situation where I was unemployed, and I loved podcasting. Why I'm on this show with you, because I love your show and I love what you do. I loved podcasting. I had a music podcast I had started in 2016. I thought, Music Ben is a party animal. Let's be real. I'm going to flip it on its head. I'm going to redefine myself and I'm going to be Business Ben. Music Ben's cool, but Business Ben is going to take some massive action. So I started a Rochester business podcast because I'm from Rochester, New York. I called it Rochester Business Connections because I wanted more business connections. And then I used the Rochester Business Connections podcast to start networking with industry leaders in my hometown. It was a pandemic, so it was really easy to do over Zoom. Dude, I'm talking to C-suite executives and they can show up in their pajama pants. Like that was never going to happen pre-pandemic, pre-podcast. So by launching the podcast, by surrounding myself with the people that I wanted to be more like, the people that had the knowledge I needed, I was able to get business knowledge quick, maintain and build relationships quick, build a personal brand by creating content with the podcast, and then grow that marketing firm. So when I say I replaced my sales executive income in a year, it's not like, again, I flipped a switch. But all those experiences in marketing and music and in failure and in podcasting prepared me for that calling to show up and do it for myself. And I think anybody can do it. And honestly, the younger, the better. I'll shut up after this one point. Let's say you're young, or even better, you're young and brand new to a city. You just went to a new college, like you're brand new. People are going to take that call. You just say, hey, I'll just use the name Mike. Hey, Mike, congrats on making it big time. I'm new to the city. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to showcase you on my podcast, on my blog, on my video series. I want to showcase you and learn from you because I'm impressed with everything you've done. Are you willing to give me a shot? You could be a 19-year-old new to the city, doesn't know anybody, and before you know it, you've got coffee chats every single day of the week just because you have a podcast. So that's literally what I did, man. And the younger and the hungrier, the better, because it's not rocket science.
Yeah, it's one of those things like I still remember back in my journey. So when I first got into real estate, I reached out. I was still taking the classes. This is fresh after me dropping out my sophomore year. And I was still during mid-semester when I dropped out. And I started taking my classes, and then I looked up top 5 real estate agents in Stanford. And I just cold emailed all 5 of them. This is before I even had a podcast. And they all hopped on a 5-10-minute phone call with me.
Dude.
And it led to a really good connection. That's how I ended up getting licensed with Keller Williams way back when. And it's like one of those things where it's like every amazing opportunity I've had so far has come through networking. every single one of them. And now it's like, I'm on the rise now. But when I talk to other people that are still similar in their journey, it's like a podcast itself, that thing, that word bears its like weight. Like you hear the word podcast, it's like, oh, all right, he's up to something. It's like hearing author, right? You hear the word, I'm an author, I'm a writer. Everyone writes. I'm an author. Oh, he's an author. He probably has a book out, right? It holds its own weight. And so if you say you have a podcast, now they don't need to know that you don't have an actual podcast. But it's like, if you don't have a podcast, then it's like, hey, I'm actually, same thing what you said, right? I would like to highlight your, success and your journey. I would like you to be my debut episode. So not only are you asking to hop on your podcast, you want them to be the debut episode, the premiere debut episode for the launch. And now it's like, oh my goodness, he wants me to be his very first guest. It's something about being interviewed, and that just makes people feel good. People love to talk about themselves. And so now they're going to talk about themselves, and then you're going to promote them. So it's like, now their perceived value goes up, because all the people that see him, they're going to be like, oh shoot, that guy's official. Because a lot of these C-suite people, a lot of these big business people don't have large followings, right? They have a lot of business success, but not much following. So it's like, oh, this guy, he probably knows something about marketing and social media, because we have this intrinsic, like innate marketing credibility. If you're Gen Z, people just think you're a marketing expert just for growing up with social media. So leverage that. And so now you're asking these people, like, I hop on my podcast whenever, and always make it an opportunity for them. Don't make it seem like you want their time, or you're taking their time. Here's like, hey, I'm actually launching a podcast. I'm, highlighting amazing entrepreneurs and successful business owners such as yourself. I would love to interview you and have you be my debut episode. I think it'll be a great opportunity for you to get in front of a younger crowd, or to get in front of a local crowd, or whatever, another crowd, an online crowd, whatever it may be. It's like, now that's beneficial to them, and also beneficial to you. And I've done the same exact thing. And that's how I've been able to connect with some of the biggest people I've been able to connect to. And the president of Keller Williams, I'm scheduled to have him on my podcast. You have to reschedule.
Let's go.
So I'm supposed to hop on already. So hopefully by the time this comes out, I'll hopefully already interview him, right? I interviewing a guy that has like 1.5 million followers on IG that I reached out via DM, random DM text message. It's like, when people know that you have an opportunity for them, they're going to be a lot more likely and willing to take that call, to take that interview, to take that coffee chat. And it's like, man, I love that you bring this on, because I was thinking about this for a while now, and I would just love the fact that you brought it up, because it's something that I've been telling people about, kind of. And I love that you're doing it. So now to segue a little bit, you started doing this Rochester Business Connections podcast. It is definitely, at least for me, it has been a labor of love. What was it like for you starting a podcast and growing that and interviewing people? What was that whole process like for you? Take us through that time period.
Dude, again, you said labor of love. That was true. I was lucky enough that I was doing the music podcast from I took a couple hiatuses, but I was doing it from 2016 up through 2020. As soon as COVID hit, I relaunched that baby because musicians couldn't play out. So we were doing live streams, and they were coming on the podcast playing live. So I already had some chops because I was doing this for fun. Now, the new podcast was like, okay, Business Ben's going to use this as a marketing channel, but I had already had the skill set. So I'm a little bit detached because I had already developed the skills. The most difficult part is the stuff you don't see. But I'm not trying to scare anybody off. The most difficult part, though, can be the stuff you don't see. But literally, man, I just showed up and had conversations with people. We did what your pitch was great. Literally, my pitch was basically that same exact thing. It was, I was reaching out to SUNY Brockport alumni, State University, New York, Brockport. It's where I went to school. So it was as simple as being like, yo, John, I see you went to SUNY Brockport as well. Congrats on making it big time. If they connected with me, this was a LinkedIn message. I was using LinkedIn. If they connected with me, I'd be like, I'm launching a business podcast to, showcase some of our industry leaders here in Rochester. Would you be interested in coming on? Now, freaking everybody's saying yes. Like, everybody's saying yes. And one thing I learned from sales, you always got to ask for referrals. Now, you don't ask somebody for a referral on a podcast per se, but I would say, John, man, you brought so much value today. Is there anyone you know? I mean, I know you're probably connected to great people. Is there anyone you know that you want to nominate for this show? I'd love if you have any nominations for the show. And then everybody's introducing me to other people. We're talking networking here. I just happen to use a podcast, but dude, you were saying it, like add some freaking value, bring value into their life, and then they're going to start introducing you to people. Before you know it, November of 2020, I did a 22 episode launch. So I did an episode a day, Monday through Friday, all of November. If we were to create like a family tree of connections, those 22 episodes led me to meeting thousands of people and driving hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit from 22 people, and then them introducing and them introducing and them introducing and them introducing. This joke's kind of old, so I don't know if people are going to get it, but if anybody had a MySpace page, I don't know if you remember MySpace, but...
Before my time.
So I'll explain it. I was born in 91, so it was right kind of at the cusp of my time. You would sign up for MySpace, and you'd immediately have one friend. Your first friend was Tom. Tom from MySpace was always your first friend. Do you know why Tom was your first friend? Because he founded the freaking platform. He started the platform. So if you want friends, if you want influence, if you want connections, you got to start the platform. If you want a seat at the table, you just bring the table. If you're trying to speak on the mic, why don't you just bring your own mic and then you invite people to sit down at that table with you? That's what Tom did with MySpace. That's what Zuck did with Facebook. That's what all the platforms do. They create something that didn't exist. And each and every one of us, whether it's a blog, a podcast, a live event, a charity, a Facebook community, each and every one of us has the capacity to create something that didn't exist. So if you're trying to make connections, create something that didn't exist before you, and then invite people to be a part of it. And dude, like the person I was 5 years ago would be jealous of who I am right now. And all I did is start a freaking podcast and start asking people to be a part of it.
Man, it's one of those things where it's like, I realized that, and I didn't even realize that until like I already started my podcast. And I was like, oh, man, I'm onto something here. And then it kind of clicked, and I was like, he who owns the platform owns the attention.
Yes.
And he who owns the attention controls all. So it's like, I'm here. I've been building up this platform. I forget at what point in my journey I realized that, but it was earlier on. I didn't have that many episodes out. And I was like, oh my goodness. There's a saying in real estate. So I'm no longer focused on real estate. There's a saying, and a lot of things I learned about business, I learned during my time trying to figure real estate out. And I've just been implementing it to what I got going on now. And so it's like, one of the things is like, he who owns the listings controls the market. I was like, okay, how do I take what I learned from real estate and then apply that into podcasting and this marketing stuff that I'm doing? Because there's no correlation, at least direct correlation. And that it's something that I would have to do. Because like for me, going into college, I never really had job experience. I was a student athlete. It's like, all right, how do I take the stuff I learned from football and then apply it to the actual like job where I clock in? It's like, I never had work experience. I was playing sports. It's like, I've been pretty good at taking experiences of one thing and applying it to other fields. And so when I learned about the platform thing, it was like, oh my goodness. And the thing with podcasting is you get credibility for lasting. Like if you last, you get automatic credibility, even if your show is not pulling numbers. So I was like 40, 45 episodes in, barely getting any downloads at all whatsoever. And it was like, people was like, oh my goodness, I got to hop on your show. Like, John, you got to have me on. And I'm getting people, assistants reaching out to me, people's admins reaching out to me, marketing, not marketing, booking agencies reaching out to me, people reaching out to me themselves. Like, damn, like all these people reaching out to me, hopping my show. I don't even got it popping yet. I'm still early on in my baby podcasting stage. I don't really have a fan base or listenership like that. And people will come out of the woodworks to hop on your platform. Everyone wants to share their story. And then And we start, I think, like a really big milestone is episode 100. So I just hit that recently. And so once you get to episode 100, it's like people look at you as like, oh, triple digits. Like,
Yeah.
triple digit podcast is like 6-figure earner type of thing. Like this, at least the way how it's been for me, it's like people find out I have 100 podcast episodes. It's like, oh, you got an established show, like an incredible show now. And it's like, yeah. And now it's like I'm going outbound now to have people on. Before it's a lot of inbound stuff, but now that I have a track record of consistency, and I've also been able to pull some really amazing people and some bigger names. Now I'm reaching out to other big names, and I coined this term, so circle prospecting. I learned this during my time in real estate, and it's kind of what you're doing. I just call it circle prospecting. Cool. I had an open house, and during the open house, like the day before, I knocked on every single door. All the neighbors' doors, gave them a little flyer. For those that didn't answer the door, I put the flyer on the door handle, and I just circle prospected. And that open house ended up getting like 28 people or 30 people to show up. Yeah. It was just me by myself. It was busy. And as I said, I'm taking the stuff I learned from real estate. How do I apply that for podcasting? And so people all have a network. And if there's someone that you want to reach out to, you may not have the best chances of going to him directly. So if you could find someone else in their sphere and then tap into them, you could slowly but surely work your way up to getting a person that you really want to hop on your show. The guy that I said had 1.5 million on IG, I had someone hop on my podcast back in September, right? And he talked about like payment processing, great interview. He has like 150,000 followers. And then I was looking at, the people where he's been on to kind of get ready for the podcast. This other guy, the guy with like over 1 million followers, I was like, oh, he hopped on his show.
Yeah.
All right, my show is still not really all that put together yet, so I'm going to hold off. But I followed him. Yeah. And then in February or March, I believe, that's when I DM'd him. And I was like, hey, I had a guy that was on your show back 7 months ago. I would like you to be on my guest. And so I had that in, even though he didn't directly introduce me, because we had similar guests on both of our shows. So if we have similar guests, it seems as if we're on similar statures, although his far more successful than mine. But I was able to get to him through somebody else indirectly. So a little bit of a tangent there, but
dude,
pretty much exactly what you're talking about.
Can I tangent with you on this, man?
Yeah.
Because for real, like whether you like it or not, credibility is more valuable. Authority is more valuable than even like logical numbers. Now, once in a while, you're going to get someone who's hyper logical and they want to see analytics and they want to know listenership and specific demographic. And you might not be able to get someone like that in your circle or on your show. More people than not, if you've got authority, you could have 2 listeners. If you have someone they respect on and you name drop that person, they immediately see you as an authority in the field. Like that is some serious marketing. So I'm not going to go on a big tangent, but I've been getting testimonials from a lot of my guests. And then I utilize those testimonials to get bigger guests. And I don't know if I want to say, I'll say it out loud. Why not? So do you know Brad Lee dropping bombs? Yeah. Brad's
I follow him on IG.
Dude, he's a king. He's good. I've been following him before he was big. He jumped on Grant Cardone's show. And I won't go on a big tangent, but like Grant was over talking and Brad's like, are we going to actually help anybody today? He was like a jokester. I started following him like freaking like 2018 and before he was big on IG and all that. And I'm not deliberately doing this just to get Brad. I will get Brad, but Chris Van Vliet, he's a 4-time Emmy Award winner. Jordan Harbinger, he's one of the biggest podcasters of all time. And then there's small people that are up and coming, like Sean Michael Crane, who was in prison for a crime he never didn't commit. And now he's a mentor, like he talks about mindset and speaking. These are all people that I've had on my show that have also been on Brad's show. So I'm not going to just start a podcast and DM Brad. But since I've had a bunch of people that I know Brad knows, now when I DM, and I haven't done it yet, but when I DM him and I name drop these people, do you think I'll at least get his attention? And all of that is hacking credibility. Now, I'm over-delivering. I'm getting testimonials. I'm not forcing anybody to come on the show. I'm doing the work, but I'm hacking credibility while I do it so I can get better speaking engagements. I can get in the door. I can get bigger guests. And you said it with real estate. Like, you and I are talking podcasting today. This doesn't just apply to podcasting. This applies to anything in life. Let's say, as a simple example, you're selling a product to a community. You get one big player, you get one small player. Then when you're talking to person 3, you name drop the big gun and you name drop the small business. It builds credibility, and it gets easier and easier. The book of business, the connections you make, it just gets easier and easier and easier as you go.
It's crazy. As you were talking, I was supposed to interview Sean. We had to reschedule, but
he's a good guy.
July.
He's a good guy.
I got on the calendar for July to we rescheduled for July. So I'm excited for that one. As I said, I was following him for a little while because he knows someone, he's connected to someone that I started following because that person is connected to someone that I know personally. And so it's like, I started following him, and then, as I said, just DM'd him, just reached out. And that's with anything. As I said, we've been talking about podcasting, but even in, so I'm in marketing as well myself. I'm actually getting ready to launch at the time of recording this, I'm launching my marketing course for realtors on content creation and AI for realtors. I'm dropping that in 3 weeks from the time of recording this. And it's like, I was teaching classes, and my first class had like 440 people sign up. And it's all because I was in a mastermind group, and the host of the mastermind asked me to teach a class. Had I said I'm teaching a class on my own, I guarantee you maybe 20 people would have showed up just because they liked me as a person.
Yeah.
But like what led up to that is like I was in the group, I was providing value. Like we would have this call on Fridays, and it was like a scripts call. We would just practice our sales scripts. And on Fridays, it was like Question Friday. And so everyone would just have their best like question, like sales question to ask, to overcome an objection. And it was dependent on the topic of that day. And so I would scribe all the questions out in the chat. Then people would save the chat and put it in the Facebook group. I would scribe the questions, put the chat onto a Google Doc, take out all the banter in between, so just only sales questions, and like put a nice little font on it, and then upload it to the Facebook group, right? So I was doing that. People started to notice me a little bit. And then what happened I was always active on the calls. One of the calls, I made a quick Facebook post because I was at the gym, so I couldn't share live. And it was just like 5 quick posts. And then the host connected me. It was like, John, like, can you teach a class on this? And I told her I never taught a class before. But then she was like, John, when do you want it scheduled? And so that class, as I said, had a ton of people sign up for it. And now, because instead of trying to build my own credibility, I hacked, she reached out to me, so I really didn't hack, but essentially hacked the credibility that she has. Because there's several hundred people on that early bird, that early morning, like real estate mastermind every single Monday through Friday. And it's like, she pretty much like co-signed almost for me. And then from there, my credibility went from just a guy in a group that, just participated and was active, and like I was a pretty solid member in terms of activity. I was always, talking and sharing. But then it went from that to like instant social media marketing expert. And like just from that one post, because the host co-signed, and that authority, like you mentioned, went from like, I'd say on a scale from 1 to 10, maybe like a solid 3, to like broke the scale just because of the host.
Dude, and it's because you were adding value well before, like she made the ask. That's badass. You didn't even make the ask. You added value. Like, give someone an example that isn't podcasting. If I go to a live event, I'm taking notes. You know what I do with those notes? I turn those notes into social media graphics. And then I share it with the person who said it. I share it on my wall. I tag them. I put them in the story. I share it. I just created content for free. Why not? It's high quality content. And then Nick Sananastasso, I'm in his mastermind. He's shouting at me out for my social media content, all because I made content around him. And now he's shouting me out in front of the entire group. It's that simple. He's touring with Tony Robbins, and he's shouting me out as someone who knows how to do social media. All I did is do some stuff for free. I'm not telling people to do stuff for free per se, but you need to add value. And if you don't have much credibility and if you don't have as many connections as you'd like, maybe you have to do a couple things for free. You got to put your chips on yourself. You have to invest your time in your business. And then before you know it, like John, they're actually reaching out to you. Like, you don't even have to reach out to them. It's because you added value to the group, man.
Yeah, and I want to jump on that point and like really emphasize it. It's okay to do stuff for free, but it's never okay to do something for nothing. Free is just money. Money is not the only bartering tool on the planet, right? There's other ways to get value. For example, I may teach a class for free, but the goodwill that I'm going to have and the other opportunities, because now that first class that I did for free led to many more classes. And now I'm about to launch a course from the time I'm recording this. It's like, but all that started was from a free class, right? So it's okay to do something for free. It's never okay to do something for nothing. So if money isn't how you're getting paid, how can you get like the email list? How could you get connected to somebody else? Like what can you get that's not money from that situation? Or what's best is when you come from abundance, it's like do something and don't expect anything in return. Because that's what I did. I didn't expect anything in return from the marketing classes. It was like, I was just happy that people thought I was credible about something. I was just happy that people thought I could teach about something. So I got an opportunity to talk to all these realtors. They're all selling a lot more houses than me. And they want to hear me speak. Like, I was just honored to go out there and present. And it wasn't until like they literally told me like, John, don't do another one of these without charging. And then when I didn't charge. Why? Because I was building up that goodwill. So many people just like took that first opportunity and just started, foaming at the mouth like, oh, money, let me take it. But so you let that goodwill compound, then you can make a much larger ask in the future. And so it's like, I've been building up goodwill for so long, and it's just a long-term marketing play. But as you said, when you're 21 and you got nothing but time and energy, you can play a long-term game. And that's what I'm in it for, man. I'm in it for the long term. I'm not trying to ruin my credibility or my reputation to make a quick buck. I'm like, how can I play this abundantly? How can I play this in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? So many people are so focused on like the next week. It's like, nah, I got this big long-term plan and I know it'll work out because I'm consistently making an effort to push the needle forward. So Ben, man, we talked about tons of amazing things. I think networking is one of the most, if not the most powerful thing on the planet, man. I've been able, and as I said, like, you had someone on your show. I'm also scheduled to hop him on his show.
Yeah. Dude, like, he's the man. Sean's the man.
We didn't even really meet and like know each other for real. And it's like we're connected now, not only because you hopped on my show, but now we're also connected because we also had similar guests, right? It's like you start connecting with some of these people, and then you get to see that their circle is like you already kind of have mutuals everywhere. And then it's like you just start elevating to that level and you start almost being pulled up to that level just because you have so many people that are surrounded with success. So, man, where can we find you at? Where can we connect with you? Where can we get some business connection knowledge and just keep up with your story and all the amazing things you have going on?
Dude, I see you, John. I saw Nick Gray's been on the show. He's been on my show as well. He's the man. We probably have more guests that we don't even know off the top of our head. I want to tell people, honestly, like, they're already consuming this. I want to make sure that they're subscribed here. If they're watching on the YouTube, hit 5 stars, hit subscribe, hit 5 stars, leave a review, like, do that first. You can find my show, Real Business Connections. It used to be Rochester. Now it's Real Business Connections. You can find my show wherever you found this. But barrier to entry is leave this guy a review first, or at least hit 5 stars or subscribe, because you're already here. And then you can find me wherever you found this.
Amazing, Ben. And now it's time for our famous 5 questions. To start things off, what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
Dude, there's so many. I got 2 answers. Can I give you both the answers?
Yeah, give me both. Give me both.
The first one, they're both cop-out answers, but they're both basically the same answer. But ultimately, there is no perfect solution to life's biggest questions. Like, it's a constant evolution of self. Like, we have never made it. We are always leveling up and changing. We're always either living or dying. Like, we're either getting better or we're getting worse. And an extension of that is there is no perfect key to success. There's no cheat code. It's a combination lock. And each and every one of us has our own unique combination. Just how each and every one of us have our own unique fingerprint. Why do you think they take your finger when you get arrested? Because that stuff's unique. You are unique. That's why there's no key. It's a combination lock. And what I did and what John does is surround yourself with the right people so you can create that combination. So if anybody thinks they have like the end all be all solution, they're lying to you. You got to find your own solution, and that's finding your own combination.
What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
Admirable. So I think the most required trait's curiosity, but I don't know if that's admirable. I mean, humility is huge, and I think that goes with curiosity. The best trait you could have, in my opinion, is curiosity, but being humble is admirable. I can't even say that word, bro.
Admirable. I know. I need to find an easier word. When I was like, this would be a great question, and then I started saying it at the end of interviews. I'm like, yo, it's so hard to pronounce. Like,
I don't know how to talk.
Admirable.
I had a speech impediment most of my life. I can't talk, but curiosity and humility, because curiosity will get you there, but humility will keep you there.
If you had to change someone's life with one book, which book would you recommend?
I've only read it once. I need to reread it, but Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. He is one of the greatest storytellers of all time. He's won a tremendous amount of awards for it. And if you can learn how to communicate and tell stories and be curious and be creative, your entire life will change. How would your life change if you're an exceptional communicator? Storyworthy will help you tell stories that will change your life. So I've only read it once, but it's a pretty damn good book.
What is the legacy that you're trying to leave behind?
I stole it from Brad Lee, but I'm trying to get the knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. I usually say the wisdom from the people who have it to the people who need it. I want to impact at least 1 million lives. And I'm not talking like a like because they saw a six pack. Like, I actually want to change 1 million lives. And the way we do that is knowledge. So if I can get as much knowledge out there as possible, that's the impact I'm trying to make.
The duty of the enlightened is to enlighten the unenlightened. Plato is a quote that I live by. And to finish off, man, if someone wanted to embark on their walk to wealth today, what is the first step that you would recommend?
Create something that doesn't exist yet. And Facebook communities exist, but yours doesn't. Podcasts exist, but yours doesn't. Start something new. Start something that doesn't exist and ask people to be a part of it.
Amazing, Ben. I had an amazing time getting to hear more about your story, getting to learn about how you were able to get to where you're at and just take the world by storm. So thanks again for hopping on. Thanks again for dropping the nuggets that you did, man. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, John.